In today's video, I'm going to share with you the #1 attraction killer that turns every woman off. And I see most men make this mistake. And if you make this mistake, it doesn't matter if you're 10 out of 10 shot, the big muscles, ripping abs, you have a Bugatti, a Ferrari, or you make a shit ton of money, it will not save you, because if you make this mistake, all of that doesn't matter. She will cheat on you if you make this mistake. However, if you master what I'm about to teach you today, bro, she is gonna be the most feminine, loyal woman ever, and she would never leave you, and she will never keep her hands off you because you're the guy for her, man. She will respect you no matter what. I'm gonna go deep into women's psychology today, and what you learn today can be easily implemented. It will help you attract and maintain a high quality woman and a high quality relationship. The #1 thing that crushes a woman's attraction for you is when you have a low relative value, bro. And by relative value, I mean your sexual marketplace value compared to her. Now, the good news about relative value is it's not about Bugattis, Ferraris, or your abs, man, or any of this materialistic shit, bro. If you lead with money, bro, in attraction, women will only be attracted to the materialistic things, but not to you. And that will mean you will only attract the Miami bitches and the gold diggers. And if that's the kind of woman you want, bro, then you do you. But if you actually want to attract a high quality woman, bro, stop leading with materialistic items. Your cars, your money, the fancy holidays will never keep her attracted, because she's not attracted to you, she's attracted to those items. And then she's gonna find someone else who can give her even more, who can buy her an even fancier bag, another Hermes bag, another Louis Vuitton bag, another Cartier necklace. So if you actually want to attract a high quality woman with a good value system, moral compass, and actually loves you for who you are rather than what you bring to the table in terms of materialistic items, then bro, you gotta focus on relative value here, man. So what is relative value? Relative value is the sum of your game. And by game, I mean your inner game and your outer game. Inner game is your masculine energy, your confidence, your assertiveness, how sure you are about yourself, and how well you regulate your own emotions. So it's emotional intelligence, emotional maturity. Outer game, think of flirting, seduction, playfully teasing her, and how good you are with your words, your social skills, and your aliveness. Are you like a zombie and you're just existing, or are you actually living, bro? Are you thriving in life, and do you have so much energy to give? Now the issue is, if your outer game or your inner game is fucked, you're fucked. No fancy car, no fancy holiday, no fancy bag will ever make up for a lack of relative or low relative value, bro. Get that in your fucking head, bro. And because all of you have been conditioned to believe that all you need is money, focus on yourself, and then women will come, it has turned you into social retard, bro. You lack the inner game and you lack the outer game. And that's why you cannot cold approach anymore. You run out of things to say when you actually manage and master up the courage to approach her. And then when you on a date, you don't know how to escalate, you're clumsy. Or when you actually manage to do all those things, you turn into an absolute fucking pussy, a little bitch in a relationship once your feelings get involved, because your inner game fucking sucks. The thing is, your outer game is dependent on your inner game, because if you are emotionally immature, if you cannot regulate your emotions, you will get stuck in your head and you will not be able to cold approach because you start overthinking. You will run out of things to say because you're stuck in your head, or you become too nervous. And that applies also to relationships. One big mistake that men make when it comes to inner game is, and I see that when they're on a date, when they're single, when they're cold approaching, or when they're in a relationship, is when they become emotionally weak for a woman. They do not find the right balance when it comes to vulnerability. That's when you see a pretty girl on the street and you suddenly pedestalize her and your masculine energy collapses. Or when you're like in a relationship and you start loving her a little bit too much for your own liking, and you get in your head and your masculine energy collapses as well. You become needy, you become clingy, you start overthinking, and you start sacrificing yourself because you start pedestalizing her. And that is the #1 attraction killer, because it fucks up your inner and outer game, bro. Because when you become emotionally weak, guess what? She has to become strong. Which means she has to step up into the weakness that you have created. She has to step into the void that you're creating. But the thing is, bro, women do not want to be with a man that is emotionally weak, bro. And because she has to make up for your weakness, she steps into her masculine energy. And when she sees that you're a man who is not composed, who collapses when shit hits the fan, bro, man, she starts disrespecting you, because why should she respect a man that cannot like cope with shit? In that moment, she has to become stronger than you are, and that reduces your relative value, because one element of relative value is your inner game. So that one variable goes down. And now we have an imbalance. And now because she is stronger than you, she cannot do what every woman wants to do. She cannot look up to you because you're literally below her. You're beneath her, and she cannot look up, but she can only look down on you. That's when her pussy turns dry, because she cannot be attracted to a man that she cannot look up to. And some of the mistakes that I see guys make is, and vulnerability is a spectrum, right? Like vulnerability and emotional weakness or emotional strength is a spectrum. But I see too many guys go from one extreme, the hyper masculine, not sharing any emotions, shutting down, being a robot, to the other extreme, which is the emotionally overwhelmed guy, the hyper feminine guy. So don't cry in front of her. Don't become needy. Don't ask her, hey, why didn't you text me back? I texted you 2 hours. Why didn't you text me back? Stop being so emotionally attached. Stop being so clingy and needy, because all of that comes from a place of desperation, a place of neediness. And then you collapse. Then the entire frame that you have in the relationship collapses. And that's when you ask for more validation from her. And that is the most unattractive thing, bro. And another big thing I see men make is, actually they don't make it, is they stop setting boundaries. They allow to be disrespected. When I was on a date once, bro, there was this girl, like I made a joke and then she punched me here on the arm, but in a strong way. And I said, hey, stop doing that. And then guess what? She did it again. And you know what I did? I told her, hey, never do this again, or I'm gonna leave. The first time I said it with a smile. The second time I didn't say it with a smile. And guess what? After I fucked her, she said that turned me on, because the feminine wants to be contained by the masculine. I talked about vulnerability, that there's a spectrum. And I want to clarify one thing, bro. A lot of the red pill gurus tell you that emotional attachment to a woman is bad. Never become emotionally attached, which I believe is absolute fucking bullshit. Emotional attachment isn't the problem, bro. Think about it, how absurd that is. Emotional attachment or emotional connection is the foundation of attraction. It is what creates a bond between a woman and a man. Without this emotional attachment, you would not be able to build a family. You would not be able to protect someone who you love and put your own life at risk. What is the problem is when you show too much emotional attachment too early on. So you show too much intent too early on, or you show too little, or when you're in a relationship, in a long-term relationship, and this is what I mentioned earlier, is when a lot of guys start becoming emotionally dependent on her. So there's a difference. Emotional attachment means that you love each other. Emotional dependency means that you are actually dependent, codependent in terms of attachment styles. You become anxiously attached to that woman. And once you're like anxiously attached to her, that's when the shit show starts again, because you stop setting boundaries, you sacrifice yourself for the sake of the relationship, you stop being able to walk away from her because you're too dependent on her. So when your happiness depends on her mood and your actions only, that's how you know that you're codependent on her and that you have to work on your inner game, because you have a lot of insecurity. When you ask her, hey baby, why don't you spend more time with me? Baby, why don't you text me? Baby, why don't we sleep with each other anymore? Why don't we have sex? Why don't you fuck me? Why don't you never initiate? Those are all questions you don't ask, because those are symptoms. Like if she doesn't fuck you every single day, if she doesn't text you that she misses you, if she doesn't say that she loves you, if she is cold, if she doesn't touch you much anymore, bro, those are symptoms that you've lost or you've depolarized the relationship and you've become codependent on her, and she senses that, and that is fucking unattractive. And when you say all these things, oh, why don't you say that you love me anymore? Why don't you text me back anymore? You sound like a fucking pussy, bro. You sound like a little bitch. So I understand, like, even in my relationship, sometimes my wants, I'm not saying that you should sacrifice your wants and needs of being heard and building love, but there is a smarter way of going about it. With Sandra, when I noticed that my needs and wants aren't getting met, I'm not saying, hey bitch, you're not meeting my needs, I'm gonna leave you. That is absolute clumsy, and only a clown and insecure guy says that. However, also, I'm not gonna say, hey Sandra, why don't you love me anymore? Which sounds like a little bitch. So those are two extremes. You want to find the balance, and the balance is sometimes you just accuse her of missing you too much. So, hey Sandra, I apologize that you missed me so much. Or when she sends you a good morning message, you say, oh Sandra, sorry that you dreamed so much about me. It accuses her of thinking of you too much, and it implies that she's attracted to you and that she loves you and that you're the guy. You see the subtle difference? Now the next attraction killer is, and that's something I've seen with 90% of the guys who are in my program, in my mentorship program. By the way, if you want to work with me, if you want to get help with attracting high quality women or actually retaining them, then click link in the description below. You book a free coffee chat, no pressure. I'm not going to sell you anything. I just want to vibe with you and see if I can actually help you. Anyway, so when it comes to something that I see 90% of men fucking up in a relationship or even in early stage dating is changing and becoming unsure about yourself. Now, the big thing about being unsure about yourself is a woman senses that. If you're unsure about yourself, how can she feel safe around you? One of a woman's biggest primal and deepest primal desires is the need for safety and security. However, a woman cannot feel safe or secure with a man who isn't secure in himself. So when you approach a girl that's an 8, a 9, a 10, or even a 7, or a 6 even, bro, like even if she's a whale and you approach her and you get nervous, a woman senses that. When you can't hold eye contact, you look down, you've got fidgety eyes, you start playing with your hair, you scratch yourself, you play with your fingers, or you play with your phone. Those are all subtle body language indicators for her that you are not composed, that you're nervous. Especially when your voice cracks and you're like, hey, you sound like a soy boy, I find you really pretty. If that happens, bro, or you can't string a sentence together because you're so stuck in your head, man, she senses that and she's going to be turned off massively. Why? Because you are nervous around things that you aren't used to. That's how it's perceived. So if you're nervous around a hot woman, it means that you're not used to being around hot women, which means you have a lack of abundance, you have a lack of options, you show that you don't have social proof, and she doesn't have to compete for you, which also means no one else wants you. Why should she want you? You see how a woman like connects the dots purely based on the vibration, your energy, your frequency you operate on. So when it comes to lack of options as a single, that fucks up your frame. When I see it in relationships, obviously you're like, when you're in a monogamous relationship and you only have this one woman, a lot of guys will start seeing a pattern that a woman starts pulling away because you are too available. There's no competition anymore. I'm not saying that you should flirt with other women, but you need to make sure that she knows that you could potentially walk away if she doesn't meet your needs or wants, and that there are plenty of other women who would want you. How can you display that? How can you show her that you are a man that other women want? You become the fucking guy. You stay shredded, you stay on your purpose, you're not too available, and you show her that you're on your grind and that you do not depend on her. Your happiness, even if you're in a long-term relationship, does not depend on her. And that lack of availability, that lack of dependence, codependence on her, shows her that you are always willing to walk away if she does not meet your standard. And that's what most men stop doing. That's when they get emasculated. That's when a woman starts taming the white line in you and you become too comfortable. Instead of hitting the gym or meeting up with your buddies, you stay in and watch Netflix and eat more chips and gain fat. You start giving up your boundaries. You start sacrificing yourself. And worse, because you're so dependent on her, you sacrifice yourself. You stop living and sticking to your principles. That's when she has you on a leash, bro. And women, they don't want a fucking dog. They can get a dog, but they want a man by her, a masculine leader. I'm giving you an example. Last couple of weeks, Sandra, she was very stressed because of a family situation, which I understand, but she wasn't even giving me bare minimum standards in terms of warmth that I expect. And you guess what I did? I called her out. I called her out in a loving way. That didn't work. So in the Don Juan way, is my archetype, in a flirtatious, charismatic way, that didn't work. Then I tried my other archetype, the Noah guy. So I was more loving. However, it still didn't work in the way that I wanted it or expected it to work. So I knew, okay, I have to use my Patrick archetype, which is a bit more the rougher guy, the hyper masculine guy. And I set a clear, strong boundary and said like, hey, this is what I expect. And I called her out, but still from a place of love. And guess what? The next couple of days, she switched immediately because she got turned on. She doesn't even fucking know it. She's not aware of it. And she turned completely. She sent me so many loving messages. She sent me sexy pictures and all this stuff only because I stood up for myself. And I showed her that I'm not unsure about myself. I'm very sure about myself. I'm certain about myself, confident in myself. And I know that my wants have to be met. And that's what I communicated. And that's when she respects me. When I call her out, she respected me. When a woman respects you, bro, she is the most loyal woman ever, because so many men nowadays, no one respects that, bro. Respect means raw female desire, and raw female desire is the #1 attraction accelerator. And when she respects you, that means you maintain the frame of the relationship. By frame, I mean frame, imagine it as a castle. There's a king running the castle and the queen supporting the king. But if the king is a weakling, no one's gonna fucking follow the rules of the castle. The queen isn't gonna do whatever she wants. She's gonna cheat. She's gonna turn the king into a fucking servant. And that happens when you lose your masculine energy, when you stop being assertive, when you become a dictator. That's also the wrong approach. It's a loving leader from a strong, secure place that creates the most loving, passionate relationship. So overall, the #1 attraction killer, bro, as a summary, one sentence, is when you have the smallest dick energy, bro. No woman wants to be with a guy who has no energy and no big dick energy. If you want to attract high quality women, you must develop big dick energy from a good heart.